even right now, and we can share a case study here, we are doing I guess, a speculative play with a property we just bought because we saw the ARV on this house and we looked at the neighborhood, we looked at the data, we look at where the neighborhood is located, and we're seeing, okay, the reason prices haven't shot up here yet is because nobody has put properties on the market yet. Like houses aren't really selling there. But as soon as they start, based on the data that we're seeing around that neighborhood and the quality of the homes and all of that, we're expecting that house to shoot up in value tremendously, right? So it is a gamble. That being said, we bought the house where it still makes sense at today's value, at its current value. We can actually, and we're debating on keeping it as a rental in today's market, in today's values. And even as a rental, it still makes sense. So, yes, you can speculate, but you got to make sure that it makes sense if you're wrong, right? And that's something that we saw and we always talked about with Airbnbs. We don't invest in Airbnbs, not because, we hate it or anything. It's just nothing of that quality, of that type of strategy has made sense to us that's come across our table yet, right? That being said, we talked about Airbnb plenty of times before even the pandemic happened, where people were buying Airbnbs, they're buying houses purely for an Airbnb purpose, where if it did not generate that kind of revenue, it did not make sense, right? It wouldn't make sense as a traditional rental. And if you were to try to sell it, put it back on the market, you were going to be negative because you overpaid for the house and you had a lot of repairs that you had to do and you didn't factor those in correctly. So, I mean, you didn't buy correctly. And your only way out is saying, well, this is going to be an Airbnb. And if it's not.
Well, I mean, that happened a lot down in Dignity, Denver Heights kind of area where people are like, well, I'm buying it for this Airbnb thing. And then like Airbnb really wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They overpaid. The rehab got shoddy. They couldn't sell it. So they had to turn it into a rental property because well, I can't get rid of it and I don't have the money to cover the loss. So I had to rent it. And it's and then it just turns into a 2, 3, 4
and there were negative cash flow.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 year just nightmare of a property. Yeah. That is just like, dude, like that sucks. And
at that point, there were negative equity, negative cash flow. It's like, that's a gamble. And to me, that's not even investing at that point. Like there's a very big difference between an investor and a gambler. And we see right now probably 70 to 80% of the people in the market are gamblers. They're the same people that are chasing Bitcoin, the same people that are chasing, Tesla stocks, all this other shit that they're just Dogecoin. It's just gamblers.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are going to get hurt if wholesaling gets banned because they're not building the business. So they're not real investors. And a real investor, even though we are huge proponents and we always say you should start wholesaling. Why? Because the level of deals that you go through is so much knowledge that you can gain in such a short period of time. Because you talk to so many different sellers in many, many different situations of finances and problems and everything. So you get to learn a huge area of variables that can happen when you're dealing with a homeowner. And then because of that, now you're having to deal with another variety of buyers that can take down different types of deals. So now you're understanding different types of strategies. Then you further understand, based on these buyers, where they're looking to invest and why. So now you understand your market much better. And where does it make sense for rentals and why? Where does it make sense for flips and why? Right? So all of these strategies, all of these things. And then the biggest tactic and strategy and ability a wholesaler needs is to be able to generate leads, right? So you learn how to generate leads. You got to be really good at that or else you fail as a wholesaler, because if you don't have leads, you can't wholesale anything. That helps you because when we get to a market like we are in now, where a lot of flippers and buy and hold investors that solely got into flipping and buy and hold, they cannot generate their own leads right now. And they're hurting. They're hurting because they're getting pissed that they're not getting anything decent from wholesalers. They're getting pissed they can't find anything off the MLS. It's like, because you never learned how to market.
Yep.
And us, we started as wholesalers. And what did we do? As soon as the market shifted, we opened up our marketing again.
Yep.
We started generating our own leads. We started doing because we've done it. We understand what it takes. You understand? So it's a huge benefit to be a wholesaler, but it's a stepping stone to becoming a real investor.